In just a few minutes, you'll know everything, from the jaw-dropping moments to the plot twists that made fans scream. This is your movie, recapped and revealed.
Washed up, soldiers drag it in and present it to Julius. Kerr, the head of the guards, believes the man just fell, but Moira sees the bruises and knows better. Julius doesn't like risks. He orders Kerr to check on the princess and makes it clear what will happen if things go wrong. But once Julius is out of sight, Kerr shifts the danger to someone else. He picks another guard for the job, someone who looks more suited for standing around than climbing. The type who hasn't seen the top of a staircase in years. Back in the tower, the princess takes takes a moment to rest in another room. She strips off more of her ruined dress to move easier. It turns out to be a smart move. Two thieves suddenly burst in. She acts bats, grabbing a broken wooden post and stabbing the first one. The second lunges, but she's already pulling the lace from her corset. In one smooth motion, she ties him to a nearby pillar, binding him in place with quick, sharp precision. She finds a crossbow and aims it at the thief still tied to the pillar, demanding to know what Julius has done with her family. But like the others, he doubts her. Even restrained, he mocks her, convinced she doesn't even know how to use it. That thought doesn't last. The first thief stirs behind her, barely upright again, until she spins around and fires. One shot, no hesitation. The body drops for the final time. If the man tied to the pillar didn't take her seriously before, he should now. But he stays defiant, still trying to talk his way through her questions. He ends the noise with another clean shot. No answers. But she leaves with a sword. The tower is crawling with guards, all scavenging for riches and spoils. She moves carefully, avoiding every patrol. While the heavyset guard rests on a window ledge halfway up the stairs, trying to catch his breath, the princess clings to the outside of that same ledge, holding on tight above the rocks and sea below. The sword's weight is too much to balance, so she lets it fall, watching it vanish into the water. Once the guard continues his slow climb, she pulls herself back inside, breathless. Then she keeps moving, slipping quietly through shadows and narrow halls, dodging the distracted men too busy feasting and stealing to notice her. Julius has no idea his soldiers are looting behind his back. She finds a bedchamber just after some guards leave. This one she knows well. She walks straight to a hidden spot and draws a blade, one only she would know is there. Holding it, old memories return. Training in the forest with Lin. Lessons not just in fighting, but in fighting with heart, not rage. To challenge her, Lin had invited Kai, the king's advisor and her own former mentor. He had trained Lin, and now he was there to test the next generation. The princess held her own. When the fight ended, Kai gave her the sword as a gift, proof that she had a warrior's heart. Now she straps on a belt and boots, leaving her delicate shoes behind. Armed and ready, she listens. She hears Julius's voice drifting through a narrow passage. She follows it, finds a small crack in the wall, and peers through. There he is, with Moira, not just allies, lovers. Julius can't seize the kingdom by force, at least not in the eyes of the nobles. To gain power, he needs to marry the princess and pretend to follow tradition. Then, the moment the crown is placed on his head, the king will be killed. A marriage proposal backed by blades. A royal murder, dressed up as ceremony. Now the princess finally has her answers. Moira continues whispering sweet encouragement, pushing Julius further down the path towards seizing the throne. Her words blend with passion as she pulls him in, kissing him deeply and guiding him toward the wall, their moans echoing softly. The princess sees her chance. Clever and quick, she sets a trap behind the wall, predicting exactly where the lovers will drift. She carves out a narrow hole, creating the perfect angle for a deadly strike. Her blade inches from Julius's head. The moment that could have ended everything is cut short by a knock at the door. A guard brings news. The king is asking to meet. Moira is torn, annoyed at the interruption, but satisfied that
Meanwhile, the guard sent to check on the princess finally reaches the top of the tower, gasping for breath. He peeks through the keyhole and sees what looks like a guard slouched in a chair and the princess asleep in bed. Satisfied, he turns and starts the long walk back down to report to Kerr. The princess, still deep in enemy territory, moves unseen through the halls. Guards are everywhere, but they're focused on looting, not watching. Below, the king meets with Julius. Calm and measured, he urges Julius to reconsider his approach, warning that this path will only turn his people against him. But Julius isn't moved. He lays out his grievance, accusing the king of betrayal. To him, it all began with the princess, her refusal, her defiance, her abandonment. Far above, the princess squeezes through a narrow window into another part of the castle, crawling out onto a ledge. She lands between the legs of a massive armored guard. At first, she assumes he's just another oversized soldier, not worth her focus, until his sword pins her clothing to the floor. She's caught off guard and not thrilled to face another giant blast, but survival kicks she dodges his wild squeeze, her blade clashing against layers of steel. Each hit sparks as metal strikes metal. Her attacks barely leave a scratch. Then she finds an opening, his armpit, exposed beneath all that armor. She strikes it 3 times with precision. Then, using his oiled armor to her advantage, she grabs a lit candle and throws it. Flames explode across his body, setting him ablaze in seconds. The meeting between Julius and the king ends in failure. Julius is still bent on power and dominance. Just as he's about to leave, the out-of-shape guard from earlier arrives to to report that the princess is safe and sound in her room. Right then, the flaming corpse of the armored guard crashes down from above, landing at Julius's feet. Furious, Julius orders Kerr to end whatever madness is happening in the tower. But Kerr won't get the chance. As soon as Julius steps away, Moira tries to assert herself. She makes a bold comment, suggesting a fury. Kerr mocks her, calling her a harlot and dismissing her voice as meaningless. Moira doesn't argue. He lets her whip speak instead, snapping it straight into his throat. Blood pours as he collapses, his body twitching to the floor. Falls silent. Without missing a beat, Moira steps into Kerr's role and gives her first command. Find the intruder and finish her. No more chances. The princess, aware of what's coming, watches as troops scatter across the tower in search of her. Panic builds in her chest. Fear takes over and she runs. But her escape is blocked. 3 fighters come at her. She's slashed across the arm, but she doesn't stop. She drops 2 with fast, clean strikes, one throat after another. The 3rd falls as she breaks past them. The number of enemies becomes overwhelming. That's when she makes a risky move, ripping off her diamond necklace and scattering the gems across the floor. The chasing guards trip and tumble, getting her just enough of a window to flee. But it's not over. One humiliated guard charges, his pride fueling his rage. She now carries a shield, and with it, she holds her ground. The blow comes as expected and ends as it should. Then the rest swarm. One sword slashes across her legs. Sue screams, a sound that stops the crowd cold. But she doesn't fall. She grabs the nearest guard and uses him as a shield and makes a dailing leap down to a lower level of the castle. One guard tries to follow but lands hard, leg shattered. The others are forced to get the stairs. The chuddy guard stumbles past the zombie, too out of it to even notice her. She watches him go, stunned that he doesn't recognize the danger he's walking past. Spotting a flag just outside the window, she dives out and grabs it. Swinging along the vertical wall, she builds momentum side to side before landing inside a nearby room. Pain shoots through her side, her waist wound bleeding badly. Memories start to surface. She had once overheard her parents discussing her future, her marriage. Her mother had begged the king to reconsider, but he dismissed her concerns. He wanted what he believed was best for the kingdom. She had stepped out in her training gear that day, armor instead of a dress, shocking her father. He hadn't known until that moment. Angry, he tried to reason with her, calling her foolish and delusional. In his eyes, the throne needed a man. She might dream of knighthood, but he saw a child in need of protection. To him, marrying Julius was protection. A respectable man from a respectable family. He left her with the choice, trusting she'd come around when her childish tantrum passed. She had been close to tears then, and now, with that memory fading, the sting returns. Footsteps snap her out of it. She reacts fast, tackling the figure that anchors and pinning them to the ground, only to see Lynn beneath her. The two freeze, then breathe. Lynn had been climbing up to find her and is relieved they met halfway. As Lynn treats the princess's wounds, she explains what happened. Julius brought soldiers in the dead of night. The king's guards were outnumbered. Lynn barely escaped, along with a few others. The princess, overwhelmed with guilt, starts to blame herself, but Lynn cuts it off. The past won't help now. Lynn knows where the royal family is being held, and more importantly, how to get there. There's an unguarded route through the kitchen. They're going to take it. Once inside, they silently signal the cook to leave. A group of guards are cornering a female servant, their intentions vile and obvious. Lynn and the princess have the elements of surprise, but Lynn bumps into something and causes a loud clatter. One of the guards, confused by Lynn's sudden appearance, barely reacts, but as she drops in with a frying pan. The princess moves fast, helping the servant escape and leaving 3 guards against the 2 of them. In the kitchen, everything becomes a weapon. Pots, vegetables, water, even rags. The princess takes down one. Lynn up. 1 guard remains. He lunges through the air, but never lands. Moira's whip lashes around his ankle and yanks him back. Crashing him into the floor. It's a dramatic entrance. Moira doesn't attack immediately. She speaks first, mocking the princess, saying all of this chaos could have been avoided if she had just played the weak, helpless role expected. Her wit gives her reach and how, striking without risk. The princess and Lynn struggle to close the gap. Then things turn worse. The whip snaps around the princess's neck and Moira starts choking the life out of her. But Lynn won't back down. She fights through and finally frees the princess. Then creates a barrier of fire between them and Moira, just enough to help the princess escape. The princess wants to stay and fight, but her family comes first. first. She disappears into a sloping tunnel, moving fast. Her path leads her into a room where guards are gambling and drinking. Without hesitation, she storms in, snatches a cup from one of them, and downs it, staring them down as they struggle to process what's happening. The first guard bold enough to grab her gets knocked out cold with the same cup. She doesn't slow down. In seconds, all three are down, just as her family steps into view. The king is proud. The queen looks stunned. Violet, her little sister, smiles like she expected nothing less. The princess frees them and starts leading the way to safety. But in war, staying close to the people you love can be its own weakness. Just moments into their escape, a heavy strike hits the princess's head. Everything goes dark. She wakes up disoriented. Her vision clears just in time to see her family recaptured and Lynn bloodied and dragged in by Moira. Julius doesn't hide his disappointment. He taunts the princess, but she fires back with sharp words and cold defiance. He reveals his twisted plan, expecting her to resist, but to his surprise, she agrees, saying she looks forward to what comes next. Her voice drips with sarcasm as she vows to make his rule miserable, and if he dares to kill her, she promises she'll haunt him for the rest of his days. Moira grows tense under the princess's mockery, but Julius is finished with the games. He turns to the younger sister, Violet, quiet, innocent, and still just a child. Tears fall down the princess's cheeks. The king, still holding on to a shred of hope for Julius's decency, though no one knows why, thinks surely he'll draw the line here. But Julius has no such line. The princess and Lynn lock eyes. No words are needed. The plan is clear. The princess charges forward, creating chaos to distract Moira and the guards. It's enough for Lynn to slip in, grab Violet, and pull her away from Julius's reach. But with her hands bound, the princess can't fight. She's quickly overpowered and thrown through a high castle window into the cold river below. Unconscious, she drifts through the current. In that dark space between life and death, memories return. Lynn's voice reminds her, the blade is not a fighter's greatest tool. It's the heart. A real fighter isn't shaped by combat, but by purpose. And her purpose has never been clearer. Her family is in danger. She wakes. Desperate and gasping, she finds a sharp edge, slices through her bindings, and swims to the surface. The wedding must be stopped. Back at the castle, Julius arranges a clergymen gather. Guards spread across every hall, searching for the runaway bride. But the princess isn't done. Soaked and bleeding, she finds her way back into the tower, determined to finish what she started. Then another threat. A huge soldier blocks her path, laughing as he approaches, likely imagining the worst. Before he can act, a massive statue crashes down onto him. Violet stands behind it, wide-eyed but fierce. The princess, reunited with Lynn and her little sister, can't hide her pride. But the weight of the moment settles in. She regrets becoming a fighter. Maybe if she'd remained just a royal daughter, no one would have died. But deep down, she knows it's not her choices that made Julius a monster. Guards are still squeaking a cassin, so Lynn leads the princesses into a hidden storeroom, prepared for emergencies. The grand hall fills with nobles and guests, waiting for a wedding that should never happen. In the storeroom, the three arm themselves, swords, breastplates, and courage. Even now, there's room for a laugh as Violet asks to join the fight. The princess promises that one day she will train her properly, but not today. For now, Violet must stay hidden and stay safe. Elsewhere, Julius presses a blade to the queen's face, demanding she call Violet out. The queen refuses, even with death staring her down. Soldiers pour into the castle faster than Nathan Discoth. Lynn discards her bow, too slow for the chaos coming, and draws a close-range double-edged sword, built for exactly this. A guard spots the princess and fires an arrow that just barely misses. It throws off their rhythm. Lynn pulls the princess into an alcove between stone pillars. It's narrow, barely enough to hide them, but it'll do. They regroup, gather themselves, and charge back into the prey, slicing through wave after wave of enemies. Julius, ever watchful, notices something off, a flicker of tension in Kai's corner. It's subtle, a glance, a shift in posture, but enough to raise suspicion. Trusting his instincts, he moves in. Kai, realizing he's been made, quickly slips a dagger back into Violet's hand. He gives her one final nod and silently urges her to run. Elsewhere, the princess's earlier advice rings true. Lynn targets weak points, joints, and gaps in the army, the cactal orcs. One enemy after another drops under their blaze. But But Julius isn't far behind. His instincts lead him directly to Violet's hiding spot. Without hesitation, he drags her out by the arm. She fights back, but it's no use. He orders her to kneel, then turns to the priests and demands they begin the wedding immediately. From a distance, the princess and Lynn catch sight of what's happening. No more time. They share one last look, and with silent agreement, split up. Lynn bolts through the grand hall. He bursts through the doors like a storm, sword drawn, launching herself into the fray. Her entrance is so sudden and fierce, it shatters the moment and draws every eye, especially Julius's. Kaiga leads the others to safety while Julius finally steps into the fight, maybe to remind everyone he's still the villain at the center of it all. But Moira isn't interested in a group brawl. She breaks away and heads outside, straight for the princess, demanding a one-on-one battle. As always, Moira keeps her distance, crafting the whip like she's performing at a ring. It slices through the air with brutal precision. In the chaos, she even knocks the princess's sword away, gaining the upper hand. But the princess adapts fast. She shifts tactics, grabs hold of the whip mid-swing, and turns his back on Moira. With brutal force, she drives the whip. Moira falls exactly the way she once tried to kill the princess, strangled by her own weapon, her neck snapped by the same deadly core. Inside, the king takes a desperate swing at Julius, but he's too weak. His strike barely scratches, and Julius beats him down with ease, sending him back to the queen, perhaps to explain why he didn't land a single real blow. Lynn steps forward next, taking on Julius herself. She fights hard, but scared, its blade binds its way into her side, and the injury draws grim stares from both Kai and the princess. With his plan unraveling, Julius decides to crown himself. He picks up the king's crown and places it on his own head, like it was always meant to be there. The princess moves in. But Julius overcomes her. He taunts her, mocks her, digging deep with cruel words that strike as hard as any blade. Their fight spills outside the hall. The king and the kingdom watch as the two battle alone, steel against steel, will against ego. Julius boasts about the reign he'll bring, about ruling with fear and brute force, no matter who suffers, but the princess holds her ground. She remembers Lynn's training, patience and precision over pride. Julius talks too much, and that becomes his final mistake. She waits for the opening, and when it comes, her blade slices through his neck, ending his reign before it begins. His head drops. The fight is over. She picks up the crown and returns it to the king. The hall is silent for a moment, then bursts into cheers. The threat is gone, and peace is restored. Right there, the king makes a bold declaration. The princess is the rightful heir. No more waiting for a son. The future of the kingdom is hers. He turns to her, not just as a king, but as a father, and asks for forgiveness. He finally sees her for who she truly is. Their joy is complete when Kai approaches, supporting Lynn, who's wounded but alive. The princess rushes to her side, overwhelmed with relief. Lynn made it. Victory fills the air. The people celebrate. Every enemy has been defeated, except one. Down the hallway, the chubby guard finally appears, just now finishing his long journey down the stairs.